Today I thought I'd do another baby names video because you guys seem to like my top 10 traditional baby girl names video. So this one is going to be my top 10 unusual baby boy names, and then if you like this one, give it a thumbs up and I'll do a top 10 traditional baby boy names and then a top 10 unusual baby girl names. If this is the first video of mine you're watching, my name is Ysis and I'm originally from Brazil. In Brazil people would say my name Ysis, but it's a little bit harder here in the UK to get the inflection right, so people tend to call me Ysis and I kind of succumbed to it, and now I even call myself Ysis here in the UK. But yeah, my name is Ysis. I have a little boy named James and a little girl named Isabella. We live in South Wales and we are a family of 4. I do family vlogs, parenting videos, day in the life vlogs. I do beauty vlogs because I love beauty products. So if you like these kinds of videos, make sure you hit the subscribe button. If you want to know where this top is from, I'll leave it linked below. It is from Next, I think, and I featured it in a whole video, but I digress. I'll leave everything that I'm wearing below, like my foundation, my lipstick, my top, in case you're interested. If you're not, then I'm gonna get straight into the video. I feel like I should give a little disclaimer before I start, because when I was pregnant with Isabella, I did a video explaining why we chose traditional, more common mainstream names for our children, and this is the kind of name that I kind of gravitate towards for my children. So I'll leave that video linked in the cards up here and below in the description box if you want to watch it and understand a little bit more why I choose traditional names for my children. But that doesn't mean that I don't like more unusual or more kind of different names. It just means that my personal preference for my children is traditional names, but there are plenty of unusual names that I think are beautiful. So the first name on my list is Angus, and Angus is a Greek name meaning protector, and I think it's kind of Game of Thrones inspired, and I think that's why I like it. And I'm not 100% sure if there's an Angus in Game of Thrones, but if there isn't, then there are plenty of plenty of names that sound like Angus in Game of Thrones. And the reason why I like it, I think it's a very strong name, but I like how the vowels and the consonants mix to make it a very sort of flowy name. And I like names ending in S as well. I think it gives kind of like a nice rhythm to the name. So I think Angus would be a very strong, manly, masculine boy. But yeah, I love the name Angus. The second name on my list is Benedict, and Benedict is a Latin name meaning blessed, and most people would know Benedict nowadays from Benedict Cumberbatch. And yeah, I think that's what made me like the name a lot. I don't usually like names because of celebrities, but I think Cumberbatch is an exception. But again, I think it's a very sort of not traditional, but I would say a very old-fashioned name, but that doesn't sound too old-fashioned, and it kind of has a religious sound to me for some reason. And we're quite religious in our family, not quite, but we are religious, and I like that religious connotation. And yeah, I just like how it sounds, and I don't think it's too pretentious, even though it's quite a big name like Benedict. I don't know what kind of nicknames you'd have for Benedict. Let me know in the comments below what you would nickname a baby called Benedict. So my third name is Igor, and Igor is spelled slightly different to what you would normally see. So I like Egor, and it's a Russian name meaning farmer. My brother is actually called Igor, but his name is spelled Ygor, and I love that name. I think again it's a very strong masculine name, but it's one that I think because of the letter E makes it sound a little bit less intense. I don't know if that's making any sense, but that's how it sounds in my head. And it's a nice short name. It's easy to spell, but it is quite unusual. I don't know any Igors with the letter E, starting with the letter E, and it's a good alternative if you know an ego with an I or with a Y, and it's a very nice simple name as well. So the next name on my list is one that's a very different one for me to like, and it's the name LB. And I don't know anything about the name LB. I did a little bit of research and I couldn't find the origin of the name or the meaning of the name, so it must be derived from another already existing name. But I just love how cute LB sounds, and I can just imagine like this cute little baby called LB running around, crawling, and yeah, I just love the cuteness, and I think that's about it. Sorry, my memory card just died, so I don't know if I changed anything whilst I was trying to replace it. But yeah, as I was saying, I like the name LB. I don't know any LBs. I just came across it whilst I was doing my research. The next baby boy name I love is Georgios, and Georgios is a Greek name, and as you can imagine, it's a variation of the name George, which is very common. So if you want something that sounds like George but you don't want George, maybe look at Georgios. And again, another Greek name on my list. I think I've gravitated towards the Greek names because I think anything in Greek becomes a bit unusual. It's kind of like an unusual version of a common traditional name when you make it sound Greek. And Georgios, to me, it's a very strong, again, masculine name, but it's not too strong. It's not as strong as Angus for me, but it still has that same G and E sound. So yeah, definitely I would go for Georgios, like US in the end, not just George or Giorgio or anything that sounds like that. I do like Georgios and how it sounds. Next name on my list is Horus, and Horus is a Latin name which means timekeeper. Now, I don't know why I like Horus. I just like the way that it rolls off the tongue. One thing I don't like is that it sounds a bit like horror and how it would be associated with horror, but again, I'm not too bothered about that because I do like the name Horus, and I think it's a very sort of cute, and I wouldn't say that it's a strong name. I would say it's more of a mellow, rhythmic name. It's not like any other names that I like, but I think it's quite different and really nice. Another name I love is Lachlan, and that's a Scottish name, and I think you really have to make the effort to say it with the proper sort of sound and not just cheat and say Lachlan, because although that's fine, I don't think that's how the name is meant to be said, and I really like that Lachlan sound. I think it's so unique, and because my husband's side of the family is Welsh, in Wales we have lots of sounds in the Welsh language that are that kind of sound. And even though in Welsh it's with the double L, it's still the same sound. So for example, here in Wales, there's a place called Llanfrecfa, but that's spelled LLA. And so, yeah, I really like that sound. I think it makes the name sound very Celtic, very sort of strong again. Yeah, but it's not one that rolls off the tongue really easily. So if you have like relatives abroad, if you're an international family, it won't be an easy one for them to pronounce, and you'll have to constantly get people to say it right. And actually, Sarah from This Mum Alive here on YouTube, I'll leave her channel linked below, her little boy is called Lachlan, and that was the first time I heard that name, and I really liked it. So next name is Mateo. Now, Mateo is an Italian version of Matthew, which means gift of God. And Matthew is my husband's name, and Matthew is actually one of my favorite boy names. But obviously we can't use for the obvious reason that it's my husband's name. Not that we're planning to have any more kids anytime soon. Maybe in the future, but not anytime soon, definitely. But if we were to have another child, Matthew was always a name that I considered, but we always put off because it's my husband's name. So because I like Matthew so much, I think that's why Mateo appealed to me. It's a bit more unusual than Matthew, but it's still an easy enough name. It's quite strong. I think it's a softer name than Matthew, but still quite manly and strong. And I know that it's probably not unusual and uncommon in Italy, because that's where the name is from, but for the English speaking world, Mateo is a lot more uncommon than Matthew. and I really like it. Next name on my list is Rio, and Rio from my research came up as Spanish and the meaning is river. Now, because I'm from Brazil, I would say that Rio is a Brazilian name, considering that it's also the name of a city in Brazil, and it also means river in Portuguese. So yeah, to us, the reason why I like Rio would be kind of like the family, the heritage connotation. And yeah, it's just a nice, sweet, short name. Again, very rhythmic, very kind of easy and mellow, not too strong. And yeah, I really like the name Rio. So the last name on my list is the name Felix. And Felix is a Latin name which means happy and fortunate. And Felix is not as unusual as some of the other names like Angus and Igor and Elby. It's a name that I hear quite often and I've heard many a times, but to me it is quite an unusual sounding name. I never associate names with the letter X to be a sweet sounding name, but because it ends in the letter X and it has an E in it without an R, I know that that sounds weird, but in my mind anything with R and X together makes it a very sort of stern name. So without the R, the X and the ending name makes it sound a lot sweeter. So I think the X at the end gives it a nice softness to the name. And one thing that came up in my research is that Felix is actually a food company, I think, in Sweden, and there's something called a Felix ketchup. So if you don't want your child to be associated with Felix ketchup, then that might not be a name for you. But yeah, I just really like the name Felix, and it makes me think of Felix the cat, but I do like the name Felix. So this is my top 10 unusual baby boy names that I love but won't be using, simply for the reason that I prefer to name my children traditional names because it's easier, because it's my personal preference and my husband's personal preference, and baby names are such personal things, aren't they? So yeah, I hope you liked this video. If you have a child, or if you know anyone in your family who has any of these names, let me know, because I think they're quite unusual. Apart from, I think, Benedict and Felix, most of them are really unusual. So let me know in the comments below. I'd be really interested to know. And if you enjoyed this video, and if you like baby names videos in general, give this video a thumbs up and let me know if you'd like to see a baby girl version of this video, and subscribe to my channel if you're new, and I'll see you in my next video. Bye!